She is the Count's most cherished mistress, adored above all else. Those deep blue eyes have completely captured the Count's heart and soul. She has borne him 2 children, and although she lives in luxury, her children cannot inherit the Count's noble title due to rigid social rules. Only at salon gatherings can she briefly forget the dull and suffocating life of the aristocracy. She once believed that life would remain this dim and lifeless forever, until one day, the arrival of a man shattered everything. Their first meeting takes place at an ordinary gathering. The laughter and chatter of the nobles seem lively, yet unbearably hollow. Adolphe's gaze sweeps across the room by chance, and he is instantly drawn to Eleanor's unique presence. Her cool expression carries a hint of disdain, yet also a touch of mystery. Adolphe feels as if he has been enchanted, unable to look away from her. He is the son of a Parisian minister, young and handsome, 10 years younger than Eleanor. When Eleanor goes upstairs to comfort her restless child, Adolphe unconsciously follows. Through the crack in the door, he sees her gently telling a story to the child. The dim light outlines her graceful silhouette. In that moment, Adolphe's heart is deeply moved. When Eleanor returns, the Count is immersed in playing the violin. Standing beside Adolphe, she begins to talk about music. Their conversation disturbs others, forcing them to stop. From that moment on, seeing Eleanor becomes Adolphe's most passionate longing. He falls hopelessly in love. Whenever he has free time, he eagerly rushes to the old Count's residence. Eleanor gradually opens up to him and begins to share her past. She was born in distant Poland. At the age of 10, her father was expelled, and her family collapsed overnight. Her mother brought her to Paris. When she was 16, her mother also passed away. Her life afterward was filled with hardship until she met the Count, yet she is fully aware of the vast difference in their social status. The Count, who is a friend of Adolphe's father, apologetically tells Adolphe that he must leave for a few days on official business and cannot continue hosting him. He suggests that Adolphe take the opportunity to explore the area. Adolphe secretly feels delighted. During the days when the Count is away, they discuss poetry and great works of literature. The passion in his heart surges like a raging tide. Adolphe pours his burning words of love onto fragile sheets of paper, line by line. When he tremblingly hands the letter to Eleanor, he looks like a child who has done something wrong, not daring to meet her eyes. Before she can even react, he rushes up the door like a sulking boy denied what he wants. He runs wildly through the rain, regretting his impulsiveness. Just as he is about to ride away, Eleanor rushes after him with an umbrella and stops him. They stand together beneath the umbrella as the rain soaks their clothes.
Vous avez 10 ans de moins que moi. Votre cœur s'ouvre à des sentiments inconnus. Vous êtes victime d'une exaltation passagère. Votre lettre ne m'a pas mise en colère, elle m'a touchée.
Eleanor longs for Adolphe's passion, yet she cannot break away from the life the Count provides. She tells him that before the Count returns, she cannot see him again. Adolphe's courage collapses instantly, and he rides away into the rain in defeat. Eleanor believes she will never see him again, but afterward, his letters arrive more frequently, and his words grow bolder and more intense. As she watches the letters burn in the fireplace, Eleanor appears calm, but inside, waves of emotion rise because of Adolphe. To keep herself from falling deeper into this emotion, she leaves for the countryside overnight with her children and servants. The housekeeper refuses to tell Adolphe where she has gone. Adolphe can only leave in frustration, but he does not give up. Every day, he waits along the path near the Count's residence. Whenever a carriage passes, he knocks on the window with hope, wishing Eleanor is inside. Yet every time, he is met with disappointment. Gradually, he comes less often. A month later, he has almost begun to forget Eleanor, but one day, the old Count suddenly appears and invites him to dinner. That evening, he arrives on time. The moment he sees Eleanor, his nervousness and unease reach their peak. He immediately asks where she has been. Eleanor deliberately avoids him. He grabs her arm and says, "If you do not meet me alone tomorrow, I will abandon everything, even my life." He wants to sit beside Eleanor, but the Count deliberately arranges for him to sit next to the mayor's wife. Throughout the evening, he cannot focus, responding absent-mindedly to her. His gaze never leaves Eleanor, and Eleanor, too, feels the intensity of Adolphe's eyes. Early the next morning, Adolphe goes to see Eleanor. He says, "I miss you terribly. Your rejection brings me unbearable pain. You seem to take pleasure in tormenting me." Eleanor softly replies, "I swear, I should never have gotten close to you," but Adolphe steps toward her, pleading like a child, asking her to torment him again as she did before.
Je ne veux que vous voir. Et je dois vous voir s'il faut que je vive.
Je vous recevrai, mais ne me parlez jamais d'amour. Jamais.
Craignez-vous. Je serai très prudent.
She is moved by the depth of his feelings. She agrees that they can continue seeing each other. She confidently believes she can control everything with reason. Their intimacy is accidentally witnessed by a maid outside the door. At the evening salon, Adolphe notices the Count d'Urfuel showing attentiveness toward Eleanor. Unable to suppress his anger, he pulls Eleanor aside, insisting on speaking to her alone. Eleanor warns him that if he continues to behave so rudely, he will never see her again, but Adolphe drags her into a storage room. He casually brings in a candle. In the dimly lit room, his eyes burn with intensity and determination. Eleanor tries to leave, but Adolphe stops her. His words of love are like warm breath in the air, heating the space between their lips. At the final moment, Adolphe finally receives Eleanor's response. Love becomes a beam of light, illuminating the entire room. From then on, they are deeply entangled in love. Every second apart feels like unbearable torment. Adolphe's warm hands, his cautious kisses, and his soft whispers captivate Eleanor completely. One day, Eleanor receives a letter from the Count, saying he will be in Paris for 2 weeks. That evening, Adolphe is originally invited to a piano recital at the governor's daughter's home. Eleanor, filled with anticipation, hopes he will stay the night, but Adolphe does not agree and leaves in a hurry. He arrives at the governor's house, lies to the steward that he feels unwell, and then rushes back without delay. Late at night, he secretly sneaks into Eleanor's villa. Eleanor kisses him passionately. Every secret meeting with Adolphe feels like a blade gliding across her heart. Yet Eleanor is like a wild horse, unable to restrain herself. Adolphe's love comes quickly and fades just as fast. He longs for her love and desires her warmth. Yet the moment he obtains it, he seems to awaken from a dream and withdraws completely. Happy days are always fleeting. The Count eventually returns. He informs Adolphe that his father wants him to return to Paris immediately. Only then does Adolphe tell Eleanor that his father had already written to him earlier. Eleanor begs him not to leave and to ask his father for another 6 months. Adolphe begins to grow weary of Eleanor's dependence. He longs for a future and for freedom. He knows clearly that this love is nothing more than passion and impulse. He does not want to take responsibility for Eleanor, yet he also does not want her to see him as shallow or feel that she has been played with. Adolphe shakes his head and says, "If I stay, you will lose everything. In Paris, I can build a career, but here I am worth nothing." Faced with separation, Eleanor is overwhelmed with pain, even unable to focus on caring for her children. After repeated pleading, Adolphe reluctantly agrees to stay for 3 more months. He worries that their relationship will arouse the Count's suspicion.
Elena, je vous ai obéi. J'ai renoncé au poste que m'offrait mon père.
Vous avez bouleversé ma vie, vous m'accusez.
Eleanor is in tears. She says she cannot obtain love, yet she cannot even complain. Eleanor realizes that she has become a burden to Adolphe. This time, she takes the initiative to kiss him. After that, Adolphe refuses to visit the Count's house again. Eleanor simply moves out of the villa and into the maid's modest home. When she sees Adolphe, she excitedly tells him, "I am free now. My monthly income of 75 louis is enough for me. The Count told me not to see you again, but I refused. You can stay another 6 months, and then I will leave with you. My 2 children will be taken care of by the Count." Eleanor's love for Adolphe is like a moth flying into a flame, a form of self-destruction. Yet this love is not an illusion, but her complete devotion only makes Adolphe more hesitant. When he is with his friends, Adolphe is even humiliated by them, especially by Count d'Urfuel, who once desired Eleanor. He says that Adolphe has replaced the old man and taken possession of Eleanor. One day, Mr. d'Arbigny comes to see Eleanor. He is a close friend of the Count. He cannot understand Eleanor's departure. His wife is even more harsh, hurling insults at Eleanor and condemning her for abandoning her children and acting without regard for others. Then he continues to accuse Adolphe of betraying the Count's trust and trampling on the kindness he has always shown him. Yet step by step, he presses forward, revealing that he only wants to take advantage of the situation.
Vous méritez tellement mieux que ce petit audacieux. Sa fantaisie, momentanée, vous laissera seul.
Eleanor collapses into the servant's arms, and only then does he leave in frustration. Adolphe resolutely challenges Mr. d'Arbigny to a duel. At dawn, the notary solemnly announces the rules of the duel. On a cliff hundreds of meters high, anyone injured will inevitably fall and have their skull shattered on the jagged rocks below. Adolphe knows the consequences, yet still chooses to face death. He cannot bear to imagine how heartbroken his father would be if he died. Accompanied by the harsh cries of crows, Mr. d'Arbigny's bullet strikes Adolphe's arm. Adolphe staggers, nearly falling off the cliff. When Adolphe fires, Mr. D'Arbigny is hit in the throat and plunges down the cliff. Eleanor carefully tends to Adolphe's wounds. The once obsessive love he felt has now cooled into something faint. He had once followed her obsessively, watched her, and tried to control her, but at the same time, he has always avoided responsibility. This duel is nothing more than an attempt to save face in front of his friends. Now, facing the woman he once loved so deeply, he only wants to escape. When they part, Adolphe says he will return in 2 months, or that Eleanor can come to Paris to find him. Eleanor closes her eyes tightly, afraid she might burst into tears. The moment Adolphe gets into the carriage, he feels an unexpected sense of relief. What once seemed like an inseparable part of his life now feels like a heavy burden lifted. Eleanor, ignoring the mud staining her dress, runs after the carriage all the way. From behind, the Count's voice calls out, and he pulls Eleanor into his carriage. Her face is visibly worn and exhausted. He tells her that he followed her earlier suggestion and planted shrubs beneath the window. He even took their daughter to the countryside, trying to comfort her wounded heart, but the child still cries, asking for her mother. Eleanor remains silent, knocking on the carriage window to get out.
Tu ne sais pas où tu vas.
Once again, she rejects the Count. On one side, Eleanor feels completely hollow. On the other side, after returning home, Adolphe feels an overwhelming sense of ease. Although Eleanor is not by his side and he feels a trace of loneliness, the city is vast, and there are countless distractions to fill the emptiness. Letter after letter filled with sincere emotion arrives from Eleanor, making it hard for Adolphe to breathe. In his reply, he almost changes the words "I love you" to "I feel friendship for you." But after a moment's thought, he stops writing. In the end, Adolphe only writes a few simple lines, asking her to be patient. He keeps delaying the day they will meet again. He feels a kind of exhaustion he has never known before. This exhaustion causes him to lose interest in continuing to love Eleanor. Eleanor, meanwhile, feels as if her soul has been hollowed out. Even though she senses Adolphe's hesitation and growing weariness, she forces herself to believe in his loyalty. When no reply comes, she convinces herself that he must be busy. Perhaps her longing is not pure tenderness, but mixed with a need to control his affection. She tries to maintain the relationship through constant letters and demands to meet, but this desperation only pushes Adolphe further away. Longing reduces her to ashes. Her days of tearful suffering drive her closer to madness. She kisses the ring Adolphe gave her again and again, praying for his return, but all she receives is delay. At last, unable to endure any longer, she writes that she will go to Paris to find him. When Adolphe reads the letter, he feels even more resistance. He still chooses to postpone. He tells her to wait another 2 months and give him time to prepare. His indifference is nothing more than a way to exhaust her patience, hoping she will leave on her own. This relationship now survives only on fading warmth. Yet Eleanor's love continues to intensify. She sets aside all pride and writes, "In such a vast city, who would even recognize me? Only you are stopping me from coming. I have sacrificed all my wealth, my reputation, and my children for you. And now, I am like a lowly servant, constantly begging for your attention. I finally endured 2 months of loneliness, and now you want to prolong my suffering again." After writing this long letter, Eleanor rushes to Paris overnight. Adolphe realizes that he can no longer avoid her. He pretends to say that he has been preparing for her arrival. Eleanor tells him that the Count is willing to give her half of his property on the condition that she never sees Adolphe again. She says that she has already refused, but in return, she hopes she has the right to ask that he give her what she has given him.
Tu donnes, puis tu présentes la note. Qui t'a demandé de donner? Je ne demande rien, je n'ai rien demandé, je n'ai rien exigé.
After 2 months apart, their first meeting ends unhappily. That evening, Adolphe's father learns that Eleanor has come to see him. He sternly says that the Count's former mistress has come to this city. "I do not want to know anything about your relationship. At your age, it is not appropriate to be involved with another man's mistress." He has already arranged for Eleanor to be expelled from Paris. Adolphe feels deeply uneasy. After dinner, he knocks on his father's door again. He says, "Do you think that by separating me from her, you can control me forever?" His father understands his son's nature and chooses not to respond. That very night, Adolphe goes to Eleanor's residence and takes her away from Paris. Faced with Adolphe's sudden change in attitude, Eleanor can no longer tell whether it comes from compassion or love. Fortunately, Eleanor receives a letter from her family. Her father has been pardoned, and his property has been restored. He has now returned to Poland. Her father hopes Eleanor will come live with him. Eleanor begs Adolphe to go with her to Poland, but Adolphe responds as he always does, telling her to go ahead first. All he wants is to get rid of her as soon as possible, but Eleanor says, I no longer want to receive your rational letters that tear my heart apart. My children can inherit the Count's estate. It seems she already understands Adolphe's intentions, yet she refuses to let go and insists on holding onto him wherever she goes.
Je ne fais plus aucune illusion sur vous. Si je suis dure, c'est à cause de vous. Je ne te quitterai pas.
J'ai renoncé à ma carrière. J'ai repoussé tous les plaisirs de la vie. Tous mes intérêts. Ma vie, c'est l'inaction, l'obscurité. Je n'ai plus aucune estime pour moi. Je me suis rapetissé. Tu me domines avec ta douleur.
Eleanor grows anxious and fearful, facing Adolphe's indifference and rejection. She tries to hide her pain, only making it more visible. In this relationship, she has no dignity and no pride, constantly wavering under Adolphe's coldness and weariness. Adolphe, however, only wants to escape, waiting for her to leave in despair. After calming himself, he finally sits down and says the words he never had the courage to say. I no longer love you. They lean against each other and travel in silence back to Poland, but what awaits them is the news that Eleanor's father has just passed away. The pressure that had just eased for Adolphe suddenly returns. Eleanor tells him, My father is gone. I only have you now. After learning they have gone to Poland, Adolphe's father writes to his old friend, the ambassador stationed there. Explaining his son's situation, the ambassador says, Your father holds a high position, yet you return home with a woman who has nothing. Have you considered your marriage? She is 10 years older than you. When you are in your prime, she will already be aging. When you reach middle age, you may still have achieved nothing. She makes you less happy with each passing day, yet more unable to leave her. In the end, you will grow old in some forgotten corner of Poland, abandoned by all your friends. If you pursue politics or business, your future will be bright, and between you and those achievements, there stands only one insurmountable obstacle. Adolphe says to the ambassador that this obstacle is that whenever she needs him, he will stay by her side, even if it means destroying his own future. Even though Adolphe no longer loves her, he still says these words to the ambassador. Perhaps it is nothing more than a rebellion against his father's control. The next day, Eleanor says to Adolphe, You must feel very lonely lately. She decides to invite several noble relatives to visit. Adolphe understands that her return has stripped her cousins of their inheritance rights. He reminds her that she should be concerned about rumors.
La meilleure façon de faire taire ces bruits, c'est d'ouvrir ma porte. Je n'ai, je pense, à rougir de rien. N'est-ce pas votre avis?
They both know what the other wants to say. Yet in the end, they fall into silence. The dinner proceeds as planned. Eleanor deliberately chats intimately with other men, laughing wildly. Adolphe stands up and leaves. Eleanor chases after him in a frenzy. She kneels before him in humiliation. She left the Count, abandoned her children, endured society's scorn and humiliation, all to be with Adolphe. She hates her own weakness and attachment, yet even in such desperation, she wants to keep him, whether it is pity or disdain. As long as she can stay by Adolphe's side, she will accept anything. But Adolphe walks away without looking back. He goes straight to the ambassador. As soon as he arrives, Eleanor's servant follows close behind. Adolphe assures the ambassador that within 3 years, he will completely sever all ties with Eleanor. The next morning, Adolphe is awakened by the sound of snowballs hitting the window. Outside in the snow, Eleanor waves at him. He sits down and begins to write a letter. Eleanor throws a freshly picked pine cone into the fireplace, and the scent of pine quickly fills the room. She rubs her frostbitten hands, trembling as she warms herself by the fire, and timidly asks if she may sit down. After finishing the letter, Adolphe gives it to a servant, instructing him to deliver it to the ambassador immediately. But the ambassador sends the letter back unopened, changing only the recipient to Eleanor. Night falls heavily. The sound of hooves delivering the letter startles Eleanor. As she reads the passage where Adolphe writes of ending their relationship, she sees clearly his coldness and abandonment. In that moment, Eleanor chooses a path with no return. By morning, Adolphe learns that she has taken poison during the night. When the doctor arrives at 2 o'clock, it is already too late. Delirious, she keeps repeating Adolphe's name. At her bedside, Adolphe sees the very letter he wrote to the ambassador.
J'ai écrit ces mots, mais tu ne peux pas douter de mon affection profonde. Recommençons.
Et votre père, ce qu'on attend de vous. Je vous remercie de vos efforts. Ils me font du bien. Mais je vous conjure de ne plus parler d'avenir. L'amour était toute ma vie. Il ne pouvait être la vôtre.
At dawn, they take one final walk together. Everything is eerily quiet. Eleanor weakly says, Let us go back. Adolphe lifts her unconscious body, and blood suddenly flows from his nose. Servants rush in and carry them back. Regaining brief consciousness, Eleanor frantically searches for a letter. Pale and trembling, she begs Adolphe not to read what she has written. The doctor says the poison has taken effect, and she has less than 24 hours to live. Relatives gather to pray for her. Adolphe never imagined that he would be the cause of everything. His eyes fill with tears, and he even imagines Eleanor waking up to embrace him. A servant hands him the letter Eleanor never wanted him to see. In the letter, she writes, "Why do I make you so angry? What crime have I committed? Is it simply because I love you? Without you, I cannot live. What kind of incomprehensible pity made you end a relationship where I became your burden, tearing apart a heart that loved you so deeply? Why do you reject all my goodwill? Why do you act both generous and cowardly? You have not forgotten my suffering, yet that suffering makes you unable to let go. What have I forced you to give up? Can you not see that I no longer have the strength? If I die, would you be relieved? Because this pitiful woman, once protected by you, has also become your burden. I have become unbearable to you. You see me as an obstacle, because I prevent you from finding an easy place in this world. After I die, you will continue alone among indifferent crowds. Perhaps one day, when you are hurt by cold hearts, you will regret that you once possessed a sincere love. This heart was once cherished by you, and it endured countless dangers to protect you, yet you do not even wish to look at it anymore." The film Adolphe ends with Eleanor's first glance back at Adolphe. In the film, Eleanor transforms from elegant and noble into someone fragile, dependent, consumed by love, and ultimately destroyed by it. Perhaps for the young Adolphe, this relationship is nothing more than a way to escape the boredom of aristocratic life. The more difficult it is, the more it excites his desire to pursue it. But for Eleanor, love slowly erases her sense of self. Some men's love is driven by desire, and when the passion fades, the love disappears with it. But women often become lost and uncertain, lacking the strength to break free. A woman's love is sustained by imagination, by the belief that love is beautiful and eternal. The more uncertain and unstable it becomes, the more deeply she is drawn into it. In the final scene, Eleanor lifts her gaze at the banquet when she first sees Adolphe. In that fleeting moment, the love in her eyes becomes unforgettable.